What are some of the biggest scams to have happened in history? Victor Lustig, fake selling of Eiffel Tower. Twice. He had another scheme where he sold people with too much money and not enough cents a box that duplicated currency. And then when they realized they had been scammed, they would either be too embarrassed to do anything or scared of being busted for attempting to counterfeit. He also told them that the box took 10 hours to complete the printing. This was to give him time to skip town. And then when they realized they had been scammed, they would either be too embarrassed to do anything. Same reason the elderly are targeted by so many scammers today. Susceptible and too proud to admit they've been taken. Gregor McGregor tricked a whole bunch of people into moving to a fake country in Central America. Dude made up his own world-building project, as elaborate as that of any tabletop RPG or fantasy novel series. Used it to lure hundreds of people to their doom. And died peacefully in Venezuela with full military honors. Dude was sending shiploads of people to their death like it was going out of style. Unbelievable that he got off scot-free for it too. Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme. U.S. telecom companies getting like $200 billion to expand infrastructure, which they didn't do, then using that money to F us over with the FCC's fast lanes. Most of the money went to rural ISPs who just used the money to buy off all other rural ISPs and nearly bankrupt themselves with operating costs. CenturyLink and Frontier were the worst actors. Bought up a bunch of small local ISPs in cities that Verizon and AT&T wanted to give up on supporting. Didn't make any improvements to infrastructure. Really should have had more regulation around it because that money was essentially stolen. In my rural area, we have CenturyLink and Astound Broadband. I can pay $60 per mo for CenturyLink and their blazing fast 3.5 Mbps, or I can go with Astound and get gig-speed internet for almost the same price. Mormonism. The Church of Scientology. A guy the first knows brother committed suicide because Scientology took all his money and was hounding him for more. Because the guy was in the military, there was a pretty deep investigation you can look up. They're evil. Never trust a religion, literally written by a nutcase sci-fi author. Y'all. The price of printer ink. This is really a thing the EU ought to regulate better. They have introduced USB-C for standardization. Now please force printer companies to make new models that all adhere to one standard ink cartridge that must be able to accept any third-party made ones. It's literally cheaper by like $10 to $30 to buy a new cheap printer every time you run out of ink than to buy more ink. It really is such a scam. Check out the label of the cartridges when you get a new printer. There will be the word, setup, written on them. What this means is, there is enough ink in each cartridge to get you set up, but you will need to get a set of new ink tanks very soon. Companies started realizing people were simply buying new printers because it was the better value, so they had to do something to combat this. Replacement Razor cartridges have entered the chat. Ticketmaster. My hate for Ticketmaster is beyond anything in the world. Surprisingly, I never had a problem with them prior to COVID. I was a nearly every week concert attendee for mostly smaller bands, but when Ticketmaster was used, especially Wary 2010s, I didn't mind it all that much. I used to go to Walmart, go to the Ticketmaster machine in the electronics section and purchase and print tickets right there. It wasn't expensive, and nearly every time I saw that all of my money wasn't going to $30 in convenience fees. Instead, I was spending like $35 to $80 on a decent standing room concert with $3 to $8 on printing fee. That used to be the model. Ticketmaster would make it easier to buy tickets versus going to the box office. That's fine, but now it's the only option. You can't even go to the box office anymore to get around fees. Haven't for a very long time, at least where I live. I got charged a convenience fee when I drove across town to the venue and bought at the box office, specifically to get around the new convenience fee, and that was 20-ish years ago. Ticketmaster is one of the big reasons I don't attend concerts much anymore, and they hold the music industry hostage with their exclusivity deals with venues. Adding to this, they artificially inflate prices by buying their own tickets and reselling them as soon as they go on sale. They can rot in hell. $22K for Taylor Swift lol. College textbooks, buying new editions every semester when they just rearranged a couple chapters around. A few sentences lol. American hospital billing. The minute you ask for an itemized receipt and breakdown, they start removing charges left and right and the bill gets reduced by 30%. Edit added American. Can confirm from both sides of that hospital bill. Source. I worked in billing for the largest hospital network in the South. Plus, when I was pregnant with my last child, I had complications for which the treatment wouldn't be covered under insurance. We weren't advised of this ahead of time and received a bill long after delivery for $27,000 for just that portion. Because of my prior work in the billing department, I knew to ask for an itemized bill. Magically, all those charges disappeared. Bottom line? Always ask for an itemized bill. I recently spent a couple hours in an U.S. emergency room for something relatively minor. The bill was $14,000. When I told them I was self-pay, the bill was magically reduced to $5,000. I have a son who passed away 3 days after he was born. I didn't have the right insurance for a rare birth we had. $21,000 out of pocket later. He's still not here, but the bills keep coming. Something to keep in mind regarding medical debt: it doesn't negatively count against you when buying a house. They disregard medical debt, and my guess is it's because they know it's bullcrap meant to extort people of as much as they can get from them. So if you ever wonder what bills to pay first, make medical stuff your least priority. The last time I got a hospital bill, I sent it to my debt consolidation lawyers, and they were all like, "Don't worry about it." And they made the debt completely vanish. Once I got billed $250 for an urgent care visit when I never even stepped into the building. I called from the parking lot and was told I didn't qualify for a COVID test. This was at the very beginning when they were being stingy with them. Hung up and left and got a bill a week later. I just paid it to make it go away because I had no resources or time to dispute it. Edited to add, I called the customer service number for this facility multiple times and received no assistance. Basically was told, "That sucks, but there's nothing we can do." Tulips in the Netherlands in the 16th century. There was a point at which one tulip bud cost as much as a good house. I see your tulip mania and will raise you one South Sea bubble. It's basically the first stock market speculative crash. The South Sea Company bought up government debt and inflated its stock prices by reselling the debt at a profit, not unlike how banks floated mortgage loans leading up to 2008. After the crash, there was a parliamentary investigation that revealed insider trading and compromised politicians to the highest levels of the government. Sounds familiar, huh? What's always been crazy to me about the South Sea bubble is how both the Exchequer and the South Sea Company went into this thinking they found some magical loophole to erase debt and were shocked when it didn't work. Furs really thought debt could be paperworked away. More or less incidentally, they finally paid off the last of the South Sea bubble debt. In 2015, the bubble happened in 1711. The UK carried that debt for 304 years. The Trojan horse, the one time they should have looked that gift horse in the mouth. Insulin prices in America for the last decade. Diamonds. Diamonds are lovely stones, but I cannot justify the premium price. Moissanite fan for life right here. On similar lines, gold. Materials are often only worth the arbitrary value people put on them. When New Zealand had a gold rush, the Maori had no problem pointing out where to find gold, but they had little interest in it themselves. Too soft, not very useful. They preferred jade. Research suggests that for most Americans, the stuff in a bottle is not better for you than the stuff in your tap. In fact, a recent report found that almost half of all bottled water is actually derived from the tap, but may be further processed or tested for safety. 300% profit for a natural resource in plastic bottle. Nestle pays $1 total per year to bottle public water in the Sierra Nevada mountains in California. Their permit is valid even during severe drought periods. They're bottling up the public's water and selling it to them. I'll only buy bottled water if local water is undrinkable or if I'm extremely desperate. Bottled water is one of the biggest scams in human history. Edit, I decided to fact-check myself. Nestle actually pays $2,100 per year for their permit. According to their website, they use 703 million gallons of water a year for bottled water. So for a 12-ounce bottle they spend 0.00003 cents on water. So many water rights were granted back in the late 1800s and early 1900s before proper surveys or assessments were done, and we've been massively overusing what the water table can properly carry based on natural recharge rates. Doesn't help that the branches of government responsible for reviewing permits and regulatory oversight are underfunded, understaffed, and hamstrung every few election cycles. See also, the Colorado River and how rights were divided up by states based off the flow rate for a year with unusually high precipitation. What's better is that some of those states never had any access to the Colorado River until the government decided to siphon off flow and pipe it hundreds of miles away from its natural course. What's happened is that the river is drying up. It used to connect all the way to the Pacific Ocean in Mexico. Now it discharges into wetlands in Mexico. How people aren't actually rioting against Nestle blows my mind. The war against drugs. How dare you? Every time we declare war on an intangible concept, the intangible concept wins. Drugs, crime, poverty, terrorism. Blaming everyday people for climate change when the real culprits are big companies and industrial countries. Any product sold in the USA is insurance. With the complete dismantling of consumer protections in this country, the extent to which any insurance policy pays out has more to do with the company's concerns over its image than the actual obligation implied by the contract. I love insurance. One time my dentist was like, "Hey, you need a cleaning really bad. Let me just submit a request to your insurance." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm sure that won't be a problem at all since healthy teeth are incredibly detrimental to the overall health of the human body." But then my insurance said, "Oh, sorry, sweetie, we actually can't cover your cleaning because you can just use a toothbrush for that." So I called my dentist and he said, "Oh, we can do it out of pocket then. It will be about $3,000 upfront. No payment plans. It's been 4 years. I still haven't gotten my cleaning." When my husband had a massive heart attack, naturally, I called 911. And, naturally, they transported him to the nearest hospital. He was a Vietnam combat veteran. The VA wanted him to go to their hospital, some 45 minutes away. ER doc said no chance. He was very unstable and was in ICU for weeks. The VA denied the entire bill, saying it was non-emergent. 2 months later, and his heart functioning at 24%, the cardiologist said to the VA, "Since when is a massive heart attack non-emergent?" The VA never did pay. It is just so wrong. I'm genuinely amazed at what we're willing to put up with here in the US. The cost of living has skyrocketed while wages have remained stagnant. Healthcare is essentially extortion. The housing market. Holy crap. Politicians are bought by corporations to actively disregard the interests and well-being of the people. Law enforcement is bordering on a police state. Meanwhile, the age of retirement in France gets bumped up 2 years and the country's on fire. I get it. I love my creature comforts, too. But what the heck? Student loans. Homeopathic medicine. When gold miners Arnold and Slack in 1872 tricked some bankers into buying a fake diamond mine. That Dark Ages thing where the church asked people for money in exchange for a ticket to heaven when they die. Indulgences were the late medieval period, Renaissance. Not the Dark Ages. The Louisiana Purchase. Holy crap, but that's a crap ton of fertile land for next to nothing and literally doubled the size of the nation. Bank bailouts. 2008, 2023. All us little guys get to bail out millionaires. The Uniparty ensures the rich stay that way. Thanks for listening.